today here at Groundswell. Thank you all very much for coming to the drill discussion here. We've got a fine lineup of representatives from 6 of the manufacturers here today. First of all, I'll just pass the roaming mic around and they can introduce themselves one by one and just explain who they represent.
I'm George Sly from Sly Agri, so we have the Boss and strip till machine just behind us.
Hello, I'm the second George. I'm George Simon, Simtech Aitchison. We're just about behind the tent over my left shoulder.
Hello, Will Waterer from Kuhn UK. So we've got the Auroch 6000, the Striga and the Maxima here today.
Hello, Steve Berry from Sam Agri Limited. We have the Virkar drill from Spain up at the top of the field.
Hi, I'm Paul Alexander. We've got the cross-lot drill here.
Good afternoon. Richard Amphlett, Opico Limited. We obviously look after the Sky Aquaculture, which is in the gateway just as you come through, just off the top of the bank.
So really, this is hopefully going to be a really good discussion. Looking for plenty of audience participation. So if you've got any questions you'd like to ask these guys, please do. Please don't stand on ceremony. Feel free to put your hand up, shout out, stand up, whatever else. It's all good. I've got a few questions as well. First of all, I'll come to Will first, if that's all right. So the Auroch is a brand new drill to the market. What does it offer that isn't already available?
The Auroch was launched at SEMA and has been launched at Cereals week before last in the UK. We're aiming it as a universal drill. So yes, it is a no-till drill and does a very good job at that. But it's also a drill that we can specify with different configurations to take a customer through from a min-till situation more gradually through to a zero-till situation. So we're hearing from customers that, for example, are wanting to reduce their cultivation over time, but may not necessarily want to do it with one quick switch. So with various configurations, we can gradually reduce that tillage to go through to true zero-till in a more gradual fashion.
Okay, very good. And Steve, likewise, the Virkar drill that Sam Agri are now importing from Spain. Again, a new drill to the UK market. So what's great about it?
Right, well, as you say, the first machine came in this spring. We're farmers as well down in Hampshire, and we're looking to go over to no-till gradually because our soils are not ready yet. So my son was looking around for a machine to do this for us, but we wanted something that was simple, easy to maintain, but also we're on very heavy clay and a lot of stone, so we weren't sure which way to go, disc or tine. We saw this machine has a combination of both, so you've got a disc opener and you basically then got which creates a tilth with its wavy disc, and then we got a seed cleaning tine behind. It cleans the slot and places the seed, and the disc works independently of your seed placement. So on our flints, the disc can lift over the flint and then the tine can come along and clear that stone out of the way, with the idea being not to leave any seed on the surface. And so far we're finding that's pretty effective. As I say, the machine has also been designed in Spain by a farmer in a very similar situation. And it's early days. So far we've seen some good results, and we'll see what transpires in the future.
Great stuff. Out of interest, by way of a show of hands, who is not yet no-tilling but is here because they're perhaps interested in going down that route? Quite a few. Great stuff. Okay, so I know a lot of people who I talk to sort of bring up the issue of the cost of purchase of some of the kit for no-till drilling as a potential barrier to entry. So, I mean, what are some of you guys, George, Simon, for example, you offer a range of fairly budget drills. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, being called Simon, my surname is Simon.
Sorry.
No, you're right. You're right. I'm George Simon. But I was going to go on to say that I naturally like things to be simple. And the main task a drill has to achieve successfully is to put the seed in the ground in such a way that it's likely to grow in as wide a range of conditions as possible. And the drills that I sell are based on a system that originally came from New Zealand for sowing grasses and clovers into an existing sward of permanent pasture, which is quite a challenge, because not only have you got to get through that sort of mat of turf on the top, but you've also got the competition of what's already there, adapted to the conditions with its roots in place, which can very, very readily outcompete any new fragile seeds you're putting in place. So inevitably, they were looking for something that was a bit more radical than a disc or a scatter, scratch and hope type system, where you're making a more positive, creating a more positive environment for the seed. And come back to your question, I've been like a politician, I haven't actually answered your question.
Yeah, noted.
Where you do it quite simply with a little shoe like this, which is as narrow as possible, so you're not shoveling soil out of the slot. You're creating a void below the surface, a chamber, flat-bottom chamber. And it doesn't need a lot of weight, doesn't need a lot of horsepower, and it doesn't need that much money to purchase. And it's as simple as that. And our machines, I won't count the vineyard ones, which are not really agricultural, but our drills go in price from 15,800 up to getting on to 90,000 for the trailed 8 metre. But by and large, the 3 metre, the most common one we sell, box hopper 3 metre arable drill, is low 20s of thousand, 22, 23,000. So there is an option for people, to get into direct drilling without spending a lot of money. And it's horses for courses. Everyone has their own particular choice, their own particular unique conditions. But I would say that our drills, wouldn't I, do operate in a very wide variety of circumstances very successfully.
Richard, did you want to sort of respond to the same sort of question? What can you offer as a sort of entry-level
machine? The opposite end, yeah. So, unlike obviously the Simtech, we're obviously predominantly a disc coulter drill, working a 3-degree coulter angle. Concept's been around for a long time, but obviously the principle is still the same, but obviously technology tends to move on, working with a top pressure of around about 250 kilos. And product line wise, we started a 3 metre box drill, and we go up to what you see out in the field out here, which is the 6 metre, obviously 3 hoppered system, which is predominantly seed slug and fertiliser. And similar to Will, obviously with the Kuhn, is that although we are obviously targeted here today from a no-till, low disturbance point of view, product-wise, we're finding that a lot of our market is coming from individuals who are considering a drill change that predominantly might still have a third of the farm under the plough, a third of the farm in low disturbance cultivation, but are looking to future-proof the farm from a point of view of generational farmings or a bit of soil health or inherent seedweed problems. That's where we seem to be slotting into the market quite successfully. Unfortunately, with that, it does come with a bit of a cost. So, entry-level sort of 3 metre trail machines, we're looking at sort of 40s and upwards to obviously what we see out there today, which is the 6 metre drill, which is predominantly we're working around the dear old 100 grand mark. Give or take, obviously, specification, but it's a drill for. We hope a drill that obviously we're working in a lot of different circumstances and a lot of different farming systems. That's what we're trying to work for.
Any questions or points that anyone from the floor would like to make at this stage? Nope. Okay. George, your drill utilises the Boss opener, which I believe comes from Australia originally. What led you down that route to finding that, and what's the advantage of that over, say, a vertical disc or perhaps a tine?
So obviously our evolution came from strip till, and strip till has multiple uses in the UK but less multiple uses in the rest of the world, in the fact that it's more for wider row crops, but the same customer base. Try not to strangle you. Steady. It's been kind so far. The same customer base were asking us about no-till, and we're a relatively small company of about 30 employees now. Developing your own disc culture from scratch is quite as a huge R&D cost. So we did like we did with the strip tool, and we searched around for an opener that we liked. Obviously, in Australia they don't move as much ground as us because the risk of not having any rain is quite high. So we found a double-angled disc coulter that we really liked, and we started to discuss with them and then adapt the design for our conditions. Why is it angled? Why are any of them behind us angled? We are angled this way because when you open a slot, if you open it vertically, it's difficult to close the slot. If you open it on an angle and you apply on the other axis weight, you can close the slot. Closing the slot in a min-till or full-till situation is easy. Closing the slot on heavy land in a no-till situation is not so easy. So that's the main reason. The coulter angle is also offset fore aft, so we get natural downforce, and the natural downforce means we don't need to apply so much vertical pressure to the opener, which is quite unique to our coulter.
Superb. Do you want to take that? Paul, coming to you, the cross slot has a reputation of being quite a very well proven globally, but also a very premium machine. How does it sort of justify that the price tag? Or am I even right to make that perception?
No, you are right. I have sold a 6-metre drill for over £200,000.
Wow.
Now, our principle of our opener, our disc runs perfectly vertically and runs in line with the direction of travel, which means the drill has to be quite heavy to push that in the ground. It is actually a tine drill. George, going to have your opener. So the same guy that invented this on George's drill invented a cross slot. All he did was cut this in half and put a disc in between it. So because the disc runs vertically, it has to have a lot of weight to push against, so we have to build a lot of weight into the drill. Also, direct drills have quite an arduous life because they're not going on tilled soil that's been loosened by a plough or a set of discs. All the wear is going to be on that drill. So we put in a lot of engineering into making it last. So all the pivot points have bearings, and in fact the drill I got here today, the openers on it are 15 years old. So if any of you don't think it will last, go and have a look what condition they're in. So our drills will range. We can't persuade anybody to buy a 3-metre drill for some reason. People think they can't get over the ground fast enough. So the narrowest drills we sell are 4 metres, and they're around just over 100,000.
Okay. Will, as Kuhn as a brand, have a wide range of cultivation products in addition to the Auroch no-till drill. Are you seeing, or has it been sort of developed in response to increased interest sort of from around Europe in no-till drills? Or are you seeing an increased trend towards that?
Europe-wide, worldwide, I don't think there is an increase. There's certainly an increase of interest in the UK. We've been in zero-till segment in some form or another since the mid-70s. We did stop production of the older SD approximately 4 or 5 years ago, and we've been very keen to get the Auroch into the marketplace as soon as we can. We've had it on test in the UK for 2 years, not a million miles away from here. And yes, we do produce tillage equipment, right from the plough right the way through power harrow combi drills, through tine drills, min-till disc drills, through to now the Auroch as well. And our take on it is we're not looking to preach to a customer or to say that this is what we should be doing, this is what they should be doing. We like to offer as many solutions as we can for a customer, and we realise that farmers are the best judge of their own farm, and the other people on the panel have touched on it as well, is that what suits one customer won't necessarily suit another. So we want to be able to offer a machine within our range that will suit as many people as possible. The idea behind the Auroch as compared to the SD is we wanted to be able to sort of make that transition drill, if we like. So on the continent, there's a lot more cover crop being grown than there is currently here in the UK, but we'll see. That may well increase in the UK. So they've had a lot of testing done working within a cover crop system where there's something growing in the soil all the time. And for those type of customers, they want something that's versatile, because at the end of the day, the cover crop density and what the cover crop's giving you and the blend that they're planting may well dictate what you're drilling into later on. So that's really kind of what we're aiming for. But we're a large player in the market. We're not going to be going away from conventional tillage, but we're just offering another segment for another segment of customers for us, really.
Fair enough. And sorry, was there a question from the audience? No. What was the reason for sticking with the triple disc design? Because not many people are still pushing that now. So what does Kuhn see as the advantage to that?
So yeah, that's a valid point. I would say just because it's old, it doesn't mean it's wrong. There's a well-proven design. There's still an awful lot of drills of a similar design sold in other parts of the world very successfully. The reason we have the triple disc is that we're looking to, if you like, take 2 bites of the cherry. So we have that opener disc at the front, and that means we don't need massive pressure on our coulter. So we're looking to reduce smearing on the side of the seeding zone, and also it means that we can adjust how that drill is running to suit different soil conditions. So there might be a time where we want an awful lot of pressure on that opener disc, but there are other times where you might want to back that right off. And so it gives us really the if you like, our key selling point, if that's the right word, is versatility. So, we found in a zero till situation, we can, on a 6 meter, we can be as little as 185 in various conditions. Other times we might need a bit more horsepower. But again, it's all about that ability to set that drill up to suit the conditions. And there were trials done with other types of coulters in the development stages, but we kept coming back to this triple disc system because it gave us that versatility.
Okay, good stuff. Any questions or points you'd like to make? Yes, sir.
A couple of times now we've touched on the kilos of downforce per coulter. The John Deere sold us 250. I don't actually know how that's worked out, because if I times 250 by 36 samples, that's more than my drill weighs if I filled it with seed and put another one on top.
Can I just step in? I mean, we talk about coulter pressure, and we all do it in the industry, and we talk about kilos. Now, kilos is not a measure of pressure. So, really, as an industry, we're guilty of it, and we are as much as anyone else. It's all about penetration ability, and that's whether it's a zero till drill or even a min till drill or conventional drill. Really, what will dictate the downforce required, and Paul's touched on it as well, is surface area, and another example would be if you have a sharp knife, you need a lot less downforce required to cut that apple in half. Exactly. It was, in all honesty, with ours, is the if you put a strain gauge on it, it's the force required to lift. So it's the physical weight combined with the holding force of the spring in our situation. Yeah.
Richard, did you want to come in on that?
I was going to reiterate Will's point. Actually, yeah, it's a combined weight of the machine, and also obviously as a pressure that's been downforced. So the simple factor of actually trying to go and pick the machine up, pick the coulter up itself, which is obviously being held in the ground either by hydraulic pressure or by springs. So it is. So that would be on a singular coulter, yeah. So as a guideline, we are all a bit sort of, I suppose, a bit. It's a bit of a grey area with regards to what in turn holds kilograms as we call in pressure, but it isn't. It's a guide of how easy it is or how hard it can penetrate the ground in whatever conditions that we're working in. But sorry, another one.
George, did you want to quickly make a point on that, or?
We always talk in bar rather than kilos, but whenever anyone's asked me up there as if they've walked along and said, how much weight can you put? I always say, don't ask that question. Ask how little can I put, and keep my seed depth at 1 inch or 1.5 inches. Because if you pile 1/4 of a ton on the edge of a disc, 1 inch down, next time you drill, dig it out, try put your screwdriver down and go through that, and then look at your wheat seed and go, oh, that's got to go through that to grow. So, in other words, put as little as you possibly can. As Will said, if the discs wear, you have to put more and more and more, but you want to use as little as possible.
Thank you, guys. At the back there, please.
Thank you. I'm sorry, this is a very ignorant question, but it's from a sort of broader perspective, I hope. I'm very interested in hearing what was being said about the versatility of the kit and the idea of people transitioning from lower till to min to none. And it seems to me that, as a non-arable person, that made a lot of sense to me as an idea. Is the long-term prospect for your industry that it's going to be possible to produce machines that can do everything from till to no-till, because actually that's the future of this kind of farming? You need that versatility, different soil conditions, different crop conditions. You know, that's a sort of future-proofing of the technology. Or is it actually going the other way? Is it getting more specialised?
Paul, is it possible to master all trades?
Yeah, we're certainly not interested in building a drill that can drill in ploughed or cultivated soil. The cross-dock will, and you can take weight off it if you want to do that. But the whole point of going to no-till is improving your soil, and about soil biology and making a better environment, reducing your costs. If you're going to go and plough that up, then you're taking a backward step. And people talk about transitioning. We took a job on a few years ago at Melton Mowbray on some very heavy clay. We had 1 day's drilling up there and then got rained off. And the farmer was jumping up and down saying, if he'd ploughed and power drilled it as he had done in the past, it would all be drilled by now. So we ended up being forced to drill in some pretty appalling conditions. One field did 12 tonnes to the hectare. The farm average was 10.5. So I don't know what this transitioning period is. You just decide you're going to go direct drilling and go direct drilling.
That sounds like a really radical message. Yeah.
But that's why you're here, isn't it?
Yeah,
For some radical messages.
Yeah.
Really cynical. Is this transition period another 5 years of selling more kit?
No, it's now selling less kit. Now, our owners, our clients buy drills, and then they go to a machinery sale or a show, and they realise they've got not much to look at. So they come back to us and they just add bits to their cross-slot drill. Because all they need is a drill, perhaps a good set of rolls, and that's all for establishment. And perhaps occasionally you'll need a low disturbance subsoiler.
Richard?
I think as coming back to the question, which is this transitional period, and again catching up with is this an opportunity to just sell more kit? I think we almost have to put in another question in the middle of this, which is actually who are we to tell you what to do in the first instance, because you've already got a system that you have adapted, that you've worked with for potentially generations. You know your costs. So who are we to come and say, by the way, sell us your plough, sell us your cultivator, because you're going to go direct drilling for the rest. It's just not something that as an industry we would accept straight away. But if you've got a product that actually can, so someone who is considering a drill change, but obviously is looking to, again, I come back to the original thing of trying to future-proof their farm by, diversing into a bit of cover cropping, or looking at doing some low disturbance because of seed weed bank problems, or actually, no, we still incorporate the plough because we've got livestock on the farm, or because we're still growing maize, or because we've still got veg. That's the market that we've got to try and slip into. That's where we are being asked as manufacturers to try and provide something that, all right, you could call it transition, all right, and historically, I suppose it is a transition, but actual fact, you're still trying to adapt a system that you've already got, you are using. I don't think transition is quite the right word. Will, would you sort of agree?
Yeah, the term is sorry. Yeah, I mean that term, I think it comes back again to saying, as a dual manufacturer, we're here to offer a solution for what you guys are trying to achieve. So, we very much listen to the customers and find out what their aims are for the future. And we're trying to offer a machine that can tick as many boxes as possible for as many people. Now that's our approach. There are other people who want to target a very niche market, and that's their approach. So but it's wrong, I think, for a manufacturer of machinery to say, well, this is what you need, and by the way, this is what you need to do to make it work. And don't get me wrong, I'm not suggesting anyone here is doing that, but I just think there is a perception from customers that the machine will make the system work. I think the machine fits into that system that a farmer's already planned to do, and therefore then they go shopping to look to see what of the machines that are on the market will fit into that system that they want to go with.
I haven't found two farming systems the same. So, again, we need this repertoire of this machine to have, such a wide variety of versatility, so that it can work in every instance, not just one instance.
Steve, did you have anything to follow up on that?
Well, I think pretty much everything's been covered on that, but being relatively new, obviously, our other side of our business with Cockling, we've done a lot of min-till over the years, machinery and farming as well. But I think when it comes to this into no-till, one of the biggest things we've seen already in this is perception. I think some farmers look over the hedge too much of what their neighbours are doing. And we see a lot of people then don't stick with what they're doing. They see that it's working a bit better for their neighbour than it is for themselves, so I'm doing something wrong, and they'll go and change their system totally. We've even been to farms where they've been min-till, direct drilling for 3 or 4 years, and they've suddenly ripped it all up because it wasn't working. And I think the message, talking to some of these manufacturers and farmers today, is stick with what you're doing. Don't just jump off the bandwagon because it's not working and someone else is working on their farm. Just stick with what you're doing. Don't jump too quick.
George?
Yes, on the question of transition, there's been an interesting evolution on this site. Since I don't know how many of you have been to every one of these editions of this excellent and improving show. But the first year, the cover crop, I jokingly contacted the cherries and said they should have been done under the Trade Descriptions Act, but because it wasn't that good. But I've slightly got egg on my face because this year, behind us, the cover crop isn't very good either. And it was, the Sky Easy Drill and I both drilled, and we haven't got that bad a plant population, but it hasn't really flourished like the last 2 years. But anyway, we've changed field, or they have changed fields, and the field over the road, the first year was a very poor cover crop. The second year was quite a lot better, and the third year, sowing it, you did really notice the difference in performance, the soil structure, and the way the drill glided through the ground rather than sort of chiseling through. And unfortunately, we've gone back to square one this year with this field here. So it does take a bit of time. But some fields or some soil types will adapt more readily, more quickly, and everything else. But every field and every farm and every farmer has to take things at their own pace. But you can't force nature.
Very good. Okay. Any more questions, please? Yes, sir.
Yes, the soil up here, up there on that hill seems to be very sticky. And is it actually too wet to be drilling there at the moment?
You want me? No, it's much better drilling conditions than when the cover crop was drilled, I can assure you. That was as tight as anything, and a job to go in and you were juddering through it. It's actually lovely for drilling today compared with how it was in April.
What do you think, George? Making a good job?
Yeah, it's pretty easy out there at the minute compared to what you face with late drilling in October. I mean, it was a bit sticky this morning, but it's all doable. I was just going to say, regarding your question, regarding transitioning and telling people to go no-till or not go no-till, while I sit and eat a Sunday roast with root crops, tates and everything else on my plate, I am not going to tell a farmer that they should be no-till. And I'm spending a lot of my time and money and a little bit with Groundswell to look at the fresh produce side of, because every day you eat, it's all right a cereal farmer in the the southeast can go no-till. But the guy, I sit next to Hull Beach in the South Lincolnshire, it's all intensive veg, and we all want to go in Tesco's and have every damn veg fruit there without fail. That should not be the case, really, for sustainability for a long, long term. But while we demand that and the industry wants that, then it's very difficult to preach to somebody about no-till, because you can't do it with what we all eat every day. So.
Just come back on it. I'm really grateful for you finishing off with that. I'm really grateful for all the answers. From my political perspective, it was very revealing and in a good way. But I suppose the question, thing behind my question was, I can see huge political pressure building up for no-till, min-till from a carbon perspective, mostly, obviously, in the next 10, 20, 30 years. And clearly you guys, delivering the high quality kit for a range of different clients, different soils, different objectives, are in the front line when it comes to the sort of political expectation for going to a lower more min-till arrangement. And I'm not asking to be political about it, but I'm actually quite interested to know whether you think that's an opportunity or actually a problem, rather, as you were saying, you shouldn't be telling people what to do. They have their systems, they understand what they're doing.
George, you're both a farmer and a manufacturer. What do you think?
I could actually bore all of you to death with carbon sequestration in soils if you want, but you will be asleep in about 15 minutes. But in terms of no-till and carbon, first of all, it's not a simple thing. Going no-till is not sequestering carbon necessarily. Depends on decay of cover crops on the top and how it's being converted. And there's methane, there's CO2, there's all sorts of things in that equation. First of all, when the government might subsidise us to sequester carbon, or I heard last week or the week before, a New York-based company or Canadian-based company is now paying US farmers to sequester carbon based on organic matter levels in the soil. First of all, the answer's not to pay for. Well, it's good, but stop chucking it in the air for a start. Is number one. But after that, machines that we make and changes farmers can do can definitely limit CO2 emissions from farms, but there's so many other emissions, methane, nitrogen dioxide, there's so many other things that affect it. But incentivising an increase in soil-based carbon is only a good thing. You can't really see any detriment to it. It's only a good thing. It's healthier soil, and you are putting tonnes down. So if you gave the subsidy based on an increase in carbon in the soil, there's very little downside to that, because it shouldn't affect overall food production, in my opinion.
Will, did you want to make a point?
Yeah, just slightly separate to the carbon issue is also nutrient runoff and effluent runoff, etc. I mean, with the Striga strip-till cultivator, we're seeing a great deal of interest in people looking to retain that soil structure and for injection of slurry and digestate, etc. So absolutely, from our point of view, if, and it is a big if the legislation and the incentives that may become available to farmers in the future, if they go the way that it looks like they're going to go today, but who's to say that could be completely different tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, then yes, absolutely, that appears to me to be a great opportunity, yeah. Because at the end of the day, if you know, and I'll make no secret, we are a machinery manufacturer and we are here to sell equipment. So if the farmers are incentivized to go down that road and they need additional equipment to do that, then of course we're going to be very, very happy about that and make no apology for it.
Next question, please. Anybody? No? Any further points the panel would like to make? Just to sum up. No, I'm all out of questions, George. So I think if you guys have got no more points to make, and we're all out of questions, then I think we'll round it up there. If you wouldn't mind just showing your appreciation for the panel, please, by way of round of applause. It'd be much appreciated. Thank you all for taking part. And that's over for another year.